Hey everyone, this is Johnny. Welcome to Travel Like a Boss podcast, episode 78. I'm here with George Schreiner and Jackie Burlow from San Diego, California. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell me about the story. Where are we now and how did you guys end up here?
So we are in Chiang Mai. We've been here a few weeks from San Diego. We're at the start of a year or possibly longer trip around the world, starting in Chiang Mai, traveling around Southeast Asia and beyond, and just kind of working as we go.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
And whose idea was that to move out here?
Well, I think we've always both had a passion for travel since before we even met. I think Chiang Mai was his idea, but I've always wanted to come to Southeast Asia, and I knew that, a week or two time off from a regular 9 to 5 wouldn't be enough to really see this part of the world the way that I wanted to. So he's been working remotely for longer and kind of encouraged going in that direction so we would be able to do this.
Very cool. And what were you doing before? Did you quit that job?
I did quit that job. I was working with children with autism. I worked in people's homes for a while. I was working at a sort of preschool sort of setting previously, most recently, which was a very, 9 to 5 in the most standard sense. So it's a big lifestyle change for me.
Yeah. And how do you like the trip so far?
I love it. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah. Chiang Mai has been fantastic. We're really getting a good feel for it, starting to meet some other people here, other entrepreneurs and like-minded travelers, and it's such a cool city. There's so many awesome cafes, places to work, and new things to see, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you guys have been working out of Kawe, which is a local coffee shop?
Yeah, we've been there a lot. We've kind of bounced around a few different coffee shops. I have a couple favorites. That's where we've been either working from home or working out at the coffee shops mostly. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So what were you doing back at home and what are you doing now?
So for me, I'm pretty much doing the same work that I have been doing for a few years, selling online, mostly hunting and archery products on my own site, georgesports.com, and then also on Amazon, which has been going pretty well. And so I've really been able to work from anywhere for years, but living in San Diego primarily, traveling a little bit, and finally getting out and doing a lot more travel now, which I've been thinking about for quite a while.
So tell me about how you came up with the name George Sports.
Well, that's it's been a while. It's been a few years since I came up with that. I originally envisioned a site that was more broad-based, that wasn't specifically having to do with hunting and archery, and it was going to cover many different sports, and that's kind of what I started with. I tried to sell a lot of fan gear, this kind of thing, and then gradually just kind of moved into trying to focus the site more on the products that were selling better for me, categories that were selling better, and just wanted to stick with the domain since I'd had it for years.
That makes sense. So you kind of tried all different types of sporting goods?
Yeah, pretty wide range of products. But when I started out, I was just looking for any supplier that would sign up with me and give me a shot, basically. And so I was just kind of trying a lot of different things to see what would stick, and found a lot of success with archery and hunting in particular. And so this is kind of what I decided to try to focus the site a little bit more, and that's where I am now.
Very cool. I actually give that advice to people often who are starting stores outside of the US, some places like the UK or Australia, where there's just not as many suppliers, and people are a little bit worried about not being able to find enough product manufacturers that will approve them for job. Is this all drop shipped?
It's pretty much all drop ship. I'm doing I'm doing some FBA with Amazon, but in terms of my own site, it's 100% drop ship. Yes.
Okay, so everything on georgesports.com is drop shipped, and then are you saying that like some of those items that sell well, you also import and sell on Amazon?
I'm not importing anything, or I'm not producing any of my own products. What I'm doing is finding certain products that I'm selling well either on my own site or usually on Amazon, and just as a drop ship off Amazon. And then if I see something that's selling really well, looks like a good candidate for FBA, I'll go to my supplier, buy a bunch in bulk, and send them in to have them FBA'd, and then have the benefits of all the FBA prime shipping, and you can usually price your items a little bit higher, and sell more in a faster period of time. So
I think that's a really good idea that you're doing that, and I'm actually surprised more people don't do that.
Yeah.
So these items, are they like, how expensive are the ones that you're FBAing?
It varies. Probably the retail is anywhere from like $30-$40 at the very low end, up to like a couple hundred.
Okay.
So probably the average is around 100 to 150, something like this. And usually I'm looking for smaller items; those work best. Anything that's larger can cost a lot to ship, or Amazon charges extra fees for oversized items. So usually the smaller the better.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Because I think the reason why most people aren't going that route yet is, so let's say they're selling an expensive item, that's over $100,
Right.
and they're not really that sure if it's going to sell well or not.
Yeah.
They don't want to spend all that money and just have it sit in a warehouse in Amazon.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the big risks involved with it. You'd think it's a no-brainer. Sometimes I find a product and I think, wow, I'm just going to buy as many of these as I can because I've sold 20 or 30 and they've sold really fast. And then as soon as I buy 100, then there's other competition. Sometimes Amazon itself jumps in when they weren't selling before, and then suddenly overnight it can be difficult to move the stuff, and you have to sort of wait it out for others to go out of stock, or if that doesn't happen, you might have to just cut your prices and just try to break even and move on.
And have you had to do that before?
Yeah, a few times.
Okay.
A few times for sure, yeah.
And was it like a big loss, or was it just a pain?
No, usually very minor. Like usually what I'll try to do is just cut if I have to. If something, say, hasn't sold for maybe 6 months or more, and it's not looking good, then I'll just cut the price to somewhere around my cost, and I'll lose a little bit of money on each item, but pretty minor. And the benefit is obviously I'm getting the cash back, and I can just try to find some other product.
Okay.
Where I can make
so at
some
the end
money.
of the world, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a little bit of money, a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the biggest, I think, thing that maybe holds some people back from FBA, like you're saying, is the big difference with dropshipping. You're not putting up any money until you've sold it, and now you're taking on a risk by buying this inventory, and it's always a risk involved with that because you don't know for sure you're going to sell it until it's sold. So
I think in just those like 5 minutes we've been talking, people can lay out an entire plan. They can,
probably, yeah.
And what I would absolutely suggest is, especially if you're in a place where you're unsure if there's enough dropship suppliers, like in the UK or Australia.
Yeah.
Do a big generic store with, and you call it, johnnysports.com or johnnysfurniture.com.
Right.
And then just sell everything. Figure out, who you can get approved by, what sells well, and then niche down from there. And then the things that niche down well, that sell well, then the next obvious choice is to send it to Amazon, buy it in bulk, maybe make a little bit more margin off of that.
Yeah, exactly right. You can usually get a little better price from your supplier if you buy in bulk. They'll give you a better price per unit, and then you can price it higher, sell it for a little higher when you're FBAing it. Amazon will allow you to get that buy box even if you're priced a few dollars higher than your competition. So
that makes sense. So Jackie, when you and George started dating, was he already doing this? And when you how did you first find out about what does he actually do? Was it a pretty easy explanation, or were you you're selling what online?
I think it was pretty easy because I think he just said he sold stuff on Amazon. He was like a merchant on Amazon for the most part. He had his own website too, and it was like he had some more fan sort of memorabilia stuff on the site back at that time. So it just, it seemed pretty standard. And I was like, oh, so you don't have any, items in you don't have like a warehouse or anything. And he's, I knew what dropshipping was. So yeah, it wasn't too complicated.
So when me and Larissa first started dating a few years ago, she knew that I did some kind of online business, and I told her I had e-commerce stores, but I was very protective of my niche. So even for the first, I think, like 6 months we dated, never told her what my store was.
Really?
Never said what I sold.
That's hilarious. That's really funny.
And to me, it was like a big commitment. I was like, one day I said, babe, you know, I want to show you something. She's like, okay, what is it? You know? And I pulled her over and I say, like, this, like, I want to show you what I sell. This is my website.
Wow.
And
That's love, man.
Yeah. And she took one look at it and she's like, oh, that's it? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, you made it, you know, she's like, you're so secretive about it. I thought for sure you were selling sex toys.
It's gotta be, yeah. Something illegal.
But so I like that you openly talk about your store and your niches. How's that helped you kind of grow the brand and grow your business?
Well, I mean, so far I really haven't been out. It's not like I've been on a lot of podcasts talking about this kind of thing, but I've found, just for example, since I've been in Chiang Mai, or just meeting someone like you or anybody else around that's doing something similar, I feel like there's really no downside to let somebody know, you know, what kind of products I'm selling. I don't think that's any big secret. I'm happy to let people know what I'm selling, and you know, I think it's great. It's some place like Chiang Mai is, you can meet people, and really people here, that everyone I've come in contact with has been so helpful and open and willing to, you know, offer suggestions on anything that they know about. So you know, I just met the other day a new person brand new to dropshipping and tried to help her out, give her some sort of beginner advice, and you know, I'm happy to do it because, you know, people helped me out along the way as well. So
I like it. And actually, just while you were saying that, I was looking at your site, and I already made like 3 mental notes of suggestions I want to give you after the call.
Oh, fantastic! That'd be great. I'd appreciate it. Yeah.
How actually did you get started with your dropshipping store?
Well, I used to many years ago work for another company that had a dropshipping model, and worked there a few years. I got laid off, and after getting laid off, decided, you know, I think I can give this a shot on my own. I've learned enough, and that's where I sort of got the base knowledge of how it works, and just some basic ideas of what to look for, what to do and not do, and so that's kind of where I got my start. But then, you know, even starting out then, I really didn't know that much, and I just learned a lot by trial and error. And I think for most of my life, I've thought I would love to have my own business. I'd like to work for myself, be an entrepreneur, but I just never knew what I wanted to do or how to make it happen. And this was finally how I made it happen. And, you know, it's been great.
Nice. So did you figure out most of this on your own, or are you a member of Anton's course?
I am a member of Anton's course. Yeah, I did join that maybe a year and a half ago, something like this. So I had already been in business for a few years, but heard about it, I think, from your blog or maybe podcast, something, and decided to give it a shot because it seemed like there's a lot of good stuff in there, and also the community, just another chance to meet some more people doing similar work. And and I think you can always, no matter where you are, you can always learn new things, pick up a few tips, and sometimes it's just a couple of small changes you make to your store that can have a big difference in the long run. So.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. I would say for most people, they'll get the biggest benefit when they're just starting out and they don't really know what they're doing. So they want kind of like a step-by-step formula to follow.
Right.
But you make a good point too, where if you're already making money with your store, and you kind of somehow piece it together on your own, or because you worked at a company that did something similar, you know, just those couple little tips can bring in, let's say, a couple $100 extra a month, or a couple more sales a month, and it kind of just pays for itself.
Oh yeah, pay for itself in a hurry. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned the community before. Do you actually post in the forums? I don't think I've seen you on there.
No, I haven't. Never once.
You're a lurker.
Yeah, I'm definitely a lurker. But I have kind of, you know, popped in there and tried to read some things and tried to find some info in there, but no, I haven't.
That's probably one of the most interesting things is knowing how many people probably are in shoes like yours where they have a successful store.
Right.
They read the forums. They're part of the course. But I've never heard from them, never met them, didn't even know you existed until
I know.
literally yesterday.
I know, they're just so funny. Yeah, we just met at the having lunch. So
yeah,
it's funny.
So Jackie, how did we actually meet?
Well, I knew what you looked like because when he was telling me that Chiang Mai was a great place to move to, and I hadn't really heard of it about a year ago, he told me to follow you on Instagram. So, we were sitting having lunch the other day, and we just saw you and your friend walking across the street, and we recognized you because I've been following you on Instagram for a year. So, yeah, I think we just introduced ourselves and said, you're a big part of our inspiration for coming here, and
it's true.
Yeah.
I don't think we would be here today, probably would have never come to Chiang Mai if I hadn't heard you talking about it and saying how you liked living here, and that sort of just got the ball rolling in my head where I thought, wow, I can really make this happen. I think, and it's also maybe you or somebody else, another podcast, I'm not sure, is saying, you're the average of the five
people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, exactly. And that sort of that really hit home with me as well. And I thought, I really need to, instead of just sitting home in San Diego and not meeting new people and just working alone all day, I need to kind of get out there and meet some more people. So.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, San Diego of all places probably has more entrepreneurs than most of the U.S., but they're still hard to find, right?
That's true, yeah. I don't think if there is a real network there, I haven't tapped into it, so. Yeah,
and it's definitely not a place where you would randomly bump into someone, at a restaurant and be like, oh, hey, let's hang out, let's do a podcast together.
Right. I think there's just a different mindset of people who have come to Chiang Mai or just travelers in general are just kind of more open to meeting new people and bumping into people and talking about what they're doing and making connections. Nice.
So Jackie, you're starting you have your own blog now as well. So can you tell us about that?
Well, when we were kind of getting this trip in the works, we actually have been talking about it for about a year before we actually left. We wanted to be totally sure it's what we wanted to do, and for me it was a little bit more, I guess, of a risk because I was quitting my job and my only income at the time. So I was kind of thinking for the last few months about what I could do to try to work remotely. I didn't really think the dropshipping store was for me, although if anyone could convince me, it'd probably be you. So, so I've worked with children with autism for several years now, and I have some certifications in that, and I was trying to think of a way I could start something with that, and George encouraged me to start a blog. So now I have a blog. It's called YourAutismWhisperer.com, and it's basically just tips for parents, geared obviously for parents of children with autism, but none of the strategies or none of my training is specifically only for autism. So I definitely am telling any parents to check it out. Most of my experience most recently is with toddlers, so it's kind of more geared towards that. I just did a whole thing on potty training, so just that sort of thing. But yeah, for right now, I'm just trying to get some good content up there and just trying to get a lot of readers, and I'm not even exactly sure what I'm going to do to monetize, but just figure I'll get some readers and then kind of go from there.
I'm a big believer in creating good content first and having that kind of organically, naturally spread, and then the money will come. I mean, like my blog, Johnny FD, never was intended to make money, and I actually remember specifically having this conversation with one of my good friends, Kurt, who now lives in Finland, but he was kind of one of the guys I hung out with a lot when I first got to Chiang Mai, and it was like it's probably 2 years ago where I remember him sitting down with me saying, "Hey Johnny, you should buy JohnnyFD.com." And I was like, no, I got JohnnyFD.blogspot.com. It's fine. It's free. And he's like, I remember him saying, he's like, well, if you want to make this into a business, you have to have the domain. And I said, well, it's not a business. This is just my personal blog. And it was literally written just for my friends and my family.
Right.
And I liked sharing what was working, you know? And he somehow convinced me to spend the $10, which, you know, now it sounds funny, right? Like I laugh about it. But I think at the time I was so broke and my budget was so small. My mentality was so like scarce that I didn't want to spend the $10. I was thinking, well, this is an extra $10 per year, you know, that's going to add up. And and I think in the last 2 years, I mean, that website, without really trying, has made, you know, I don't know, a couple $1,000s, if not more than $10,000, $20,000 just from that website.
That's incredible, yeah.
And
that's great.
Even from things that like I never intended to monetize. So, and it's just because it started with good content, and then people kind of just started following and sharing it. So you know, that's what I teach in my new course. I don't know if you've seen it.
I did, yeah. I saw a couple of your emails about it as well, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. I think we have our first, I think, like 25 or 30 students. So I'm kind of just I'm trying to mold them first before, you know, spending. I haven't spent any money advertising yet. I'm just like, It's all word of mouth.
That's
and
cool.
Yeah, and I figure, you know what, it's one of those things where I can have a huge launch at the beginning and say, like, only available for 2 days, just, you know, you have to sign up now. Or I can just have those 25 people come in and have some of them become really successful, and they will be the best, like, marketing ever.
Totally, yeah. I think that's a great way to do it, yeah. That's great, though, that you got that many already, you know, to give it a shot. So
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. And
Sounds cool.
It's like a new chapter in the life, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't want to get too deep into autism because this podcast has nothing to do with it. But just because I personally I have so many questions about it. Mm-hmm. So I briefly mentioned to you yesterday at the restaurant, but kind of just for everyone here. So my sister has sent me so many links and articles and videos and documentaries about autism, especially the correlation between autism and vaccines. So she is super against vaccines, and I've watched all the info, I've read all the articles, and here's kind of my decision from a person who's just a person. This is my own personal opinion. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a researcher, but I feel like it's complicated as heck, and that nobody actually knows what the hell is going on.
Sort of. I think that's part of the problem, yeah, because they don't. There's, you know, tons of studies that try to, you know, find out what causes autism, and to my knowledge, there's nothing really that says anything specifically. There's been like a very small correlation saying there's probably something genetic going on in there, because if your first child has autism, it's like slightly more likely that the second will. I haven't read on any of this very recently, so don't quote me on this, but I do know that like the very first study that first came out saying vaccines cause autism has been, I think, just like pulled from the journal. It's something to do with the research wasn't done correctly or something. Although I think more have come out now. I don't know. It's a big political issue. I personally am pro-vaccines. I think that the benefit of them is much more important and much bigger than the possible link, which has really been disproved many times as well. But I know I've also met parents that, you know, are 100% convinced that their child was totally fine until they got some vaccines, and now they, you know, the child has autism, and you can't really argue with them when, you know, when it's their child. So it's
I think
tough.
From what I've seen and what I've read, there definitely has been a few cases where there was a direct causation from a vaccine injury, and I think the reason why, at least in my mind, that was proven is because either the vaccine company or whatever the vaccine court paid those parents and said, look, you know, obviously your kid has lots of issues, like you can see it just in the child. You know, they have an injury, they have like mental injuries, and that they were paid out, you know, millions of dollars because of these injuries. So I can see, you know, but that's a very small percentage of people, and unfortunately I think also the argument is for those parents to get paid out, and it was such a big headache that most parents, even though their kids suffer from, whatever injury it is, whether it's autism or something more severe, they just can't even go through that process because it's such a big legal process.
Yeah, sure it is.
So maybe there's more parents, who have had their kids suffer through this that haven't actually been able to get proven or spoken out. But I would say, just kind of from my personal point of view, I think that the vast majority, like maybe even like more than 99 point whatever percent of people do benefit from vaccines. So the U.S. as a whole, the world as a whole, 100% benefits from it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the more power these companies have, the more vaccines they introduce, and the crazier the schedule gets.
Yeah.
I think that's also going to have a lot of issues. So what I suggested to my sister, instead of being completely anti-vax, it's like, well, why don't you guys fight against, certain ones that you don't think need to be there? Because out of the 42 vaccines or whatever it is that a kid gets before they're 7, maybe there's a few that just maybe aren't as needed. Maybe a few that should be given later, or maybe there's there's a few that maybe could be completely eliminated. But just saying completely zero vaccines, I definitely 100% don't think that's right.
Yeah, I guess I should, when I said that I was pro-vaccine, I'm not thinking like, go get every shot you can possibly find and get it now. But, for some of the big ones, like people are getting measles again, and people don't need to get measles again. So things like that. And I think another thing is a lot of times, especially if it's your first child, parents aren't aware of the very initial signs of autism. A lot of people, one of the most common questions they get when people find out what I do is they're like, how can you look at a 6-month-old and like know they have autism or something? So I think a lot of parents maybe don't, it's harder to see the delays when the peers that are the same age aren't like advancing. And once you get to like, 2, 2.5, 3, it's much more clear to see that, this child's behind, peers that are the same age. And a lot of times with the vaccine schedule, a lot are given maybe 1.5, 2, and then they're like, oh, well, I didn't notice he was delayed, but now he got these vaccines, and oh my gosh, now I see he's so far behind his peers. So that's just another thing that sometimes parents might not be aware that there were some signs, but they're just more subtle and they're harder to see, in an infant.
I can definitely see that. But I think for me, the question is always, how could we prevent it instead of how we can treat it or how we can better diagnose it?
Right.
Is there any way to, like, let's say you two wanted to have a child in the next 2 years. Is there anything you could do to your health, your diet, your location, or anything that could help prevent having autism or your kid having autism?
Not that I know of. I mean, you could look at the rates per country because they are, I don't think they're the same. I think there are countries that they say have less. So there could be something, I don't know, something in the air, something about cultural dietary things. But I don't know of anything specifically that's like, take this vitamin, anything like that. I mean, I know in the US they say that it, it's blind. It's not like a certain race, a certain income, anything like that. It's, my clients are all over in every way. So, not that I know of.
So I'm 100%, I have empathy for anyone who has to go through this because it's probably one of the most devastating things any parent ever has to go through. And I don't want anyone ever have to go through this. I wish there was a better answer. I think the only thing I can suggest is for people to not take one side 100% and not say like nobody should ever get a vaccine, and then not people on the other side saying all you anti-vaxxers are idiots because
Another hard thing is like it's not like a blood test like Down syndrome. A pregnant woman can find out if her child is going to have Down syndrome before it's even born. You can never get a blood test and say there's autism. So it's not like you can test the infant to get the vaccine and then test it or anything. It's psychologists have to observe. And that's how it's diagnosed. So it's
what is autism? Like just a very short definition of it. Like is it like a set of behaviors or is it a disease? Is it a virus? What is it? I don't know. I think it's one of the, it's complicated, right?
Yeah, I mean it's not a virus.
Yeah.
It's not a disease, I would say. It's a disorder, so technically it's the autism spectrum disorder. and actually, I know I'm not educated or trained enough to diagnose. I'm not even close. And I know that the criteria that I was trained in about 5 years ago has changed.
Okay.
They change it a lot. They actually, like, just recently, I think in the last 2 years, Asperger's syndrome is no longer a thing. It's all encompassed under this autism spectrum disorders.
So there's no, I mean, I guess you can't say there's no such thing as Asperger's, but...
It's very hard because there'll be people that are basically anything older than like 4 that could have been diagnosed, you know, adults that are like, oh, I have Asperger's, like, oh no, you don't have that, that's not a thing anymore. But I mean, it's still kind of that term people think of as just like a higher functioning autism, which I believe when I was trained in it meant that there wasn't a communication like delay. There were other delays, but there was like 3 main categories, and communication was one of them. And then Asperger's, there wasn't a delay in that field. But yeah, it's changed since I was trained in it, and I was only barely trained. So
man, so I mean, definitely a complicated matter. So why did you decide to create a blog about it? I mean, are you very passionate about helping parents deal with their kids with autism, or what is it?
Yeah, and well, before my most recent job that I left, I was working in home. So it was in California, the insurance, or either the insurance company or the state regional center would pay for these services, and I would be the person that went into the home and worked with a child, several times per week, 3 to 5 times per week. And I had a supervisor who, had a lot more training and education than me, who would come and I guess I feel like a lot of the times the supervisors would explain these ideas to the parents in, they were so educated, they had more knowledge and kind of in these terms that most typical parents didn't really understand fully. And I felt like then I would kind of go and kind of put it in more layman's terms and just also make it more practical, because a lot of times the best thing to do isn't practical for someone's daily life. You have 3 kids, you're working, one of them has autism, maybe more than one of them has autism, and this ideal thing, which would definitely be the best, these parents just couldn't do, and they would be like overwhelmed and they wouldn't really do anything because it was just too much. So I wanted to create this blog that would basically say exactly what you needed to do for a certain improvement that you wanted to see, and it was in simple terms that should be easily understood, and it's something that you can do right away. You can just read the blog, and then you can start trying to implement the tips that I talk about, and it shouldn't be too overwhelming, and it should be easy to understand. Okay,
I like it, and it's cool that the two of you are doing completely different things. Do you guys ever, your work or your knowledge ever overlap? Do you guys ever help each other with your stores or your blog?
He helps me a little bit because he's more, he encouraged me to start a blog.
Yeah, I think I've tried to help her out just because even though I don't specifically know anything about autism or even much about blogging, I've just been sort of in this space, and just through listening to podcasts and trying to learn about marketing, internet marketing, and marketing a blog and this kind of thing, I've picked up a few things. So, like, for example, told her to start capturing emails like right away from the beginning, which I think is maybe something I originally heard from Pat Flynn or somewhere along the line, saying start a blog, start getting emails, and then eventually once you get a bunch of readers, you have those emails and you can always communicate with them, contact them, try to give them more information or what have you, so some things like that a little bit, or we'll talk about something to do with my site. Maybe I might have some question or something or other, but
I can't think of time when
So Jackie, how interested are you in George's e-commerce business?
I mean, I'm interested. I don't know. I feel like he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe you don't talk business that much with me.
I don't think we get into a lot of the nitty gritty of it. I mean, there was a time when I did say, she was saying, "Oh, I don't like my job." I said, "Oh, you should start a store. You should work for yourself. I can help you. And she didn't seem that interested, perhaps because she was seeing some of the maybe less glamorous parts of running a store.
I think it's more like you complain, like sort of like, oh, that's great, complain about a bad thing, a crazy customer, an issue, and that's kind of what it's not. But he does also. He just sends me when the customers say something funny, you're the best. I'm talking to George himself.
From GeorgeSports.com.
That is funny. Yeah, I love that when that happens. When I end up answering a lot of the calls myself because it's still, more or less just me running the show. And so when a customer calls and they say, who am I speaking to? And I say, oh, this is George. And they say, oh, really? Is everybody who answers the phone George? And they don't really believe. And then, or they say, well, really? I'm talking to the George? That's amazing. I can't believe it. And it's so funny. You get a testimonial that says, oh, this was a great experience. I even talked to George himself. So
I think that's awesome.
It's really funny when that happens, and it's cool. Yeah, you can help somebody out. So
that's really exciting. I was actually going to say you should definitely put your photo on your About Us page.
Yes, that is a good idea. That's kind of one of the things I've been meaning to do, just to kind of personalize it a little bit more.
Especially if it's going to be called George Sports, you might as well
that's true.
own it.
Totally, yeah. No reason to hide from it. Yeah,
I like it. So I understand like what you're saying about this. It's just not like a super stressful job, but things come up all the time.
Yeah.
And
I guess it's like he's not going to just be like, a customer made an order and it went smoothly and I didn't have to do anything and I just made $30. Like he's not going to just like say that, but it'll be like, oh, this return's not good, like something like it's more like that's what you would talk about. But
and I'm sure like in the very beginning, like actually, how long have you been running the store?
6 years.
So I guarantee if you met him 5 years ago, 6 years ago, he would have been so excited. Saying, I made my first sale. Made $100 today.
Yeah, that's true. It does change over time. Yeah. And it's while running the store is great for me, I think it's not for everybody. Yeah. And some people like a different sort of a business that's maybe a little more passive or more hands off. And I'm trying to make my store more hands-off as much as I can to automate stuff, but it's still not 100% there. And
so while you're traveling, do you have someone answering calls?
No, I really don't get that many calls. So either and sometimes I'm working pretty late, so I'll answer the call if I'm awake, or just get back to somebody that the next day, and it's usually not that big a deal. So luckily I'm not getting too many calls right now, but it's not really ideal. So ideally somebody calls, somebody answers, and
So what's funny is most of my calls, the number list on my website is my customer service guy that's in Washington.
Oh, I've heard you talk about this. I was going to ask you about how that worked.
Yeah. So I've been through a few people. I would say it's very hard. It's not the easiest to find like reliable help. I'm sure. Especially that's part-time.
Right.
So I've found people through Odesk, Freelancer, Craigslist, even Fiverr, just, kind of wherever you can find people.
Yep.
And the guy I'm using now, he's pretty reliable. He's been with me for, I think, more than half a year. So it's pretty hands-off. And so 99% of the calls go straight to him. Okay. And then I think in one of the emails or something, or in the invoice when people buy something, I have my Skype number that goes to me.
Ah, yes.
And what's funny is this morning I was calling my friend who lives in California, in Orange County, and then I get a missed call. And then he says, hey, I'm going to call you back. And then I get a missed call from someone in that same area code. So I just assumed it was him.
Right.
And I called. I'm like, hey, what's up? This is Johnny. And they're like, hello, is this, And I was like, yes, hi. And they just had like a small question about something, and I ended up helping them, over the phone with the customer service. And I was like, that's probably the most I've talked to someone on the phone for months now.
Yeah.
But I still sometimes complain, and I don't want to say it stresses me, but when I do something, I really try to commit to it 100%.
Right.
So even though I don't spend more than half an hour on my stores per day, during that half an hour, I think about it. Like sometimes, there's a customer who, let's say, has lost a package or shipping's delayed. Yeah. Usually something that's really, it's not my fault at all.
Right.
Because I'm not the one shipping it. but I still feel connected. I still feel concerned for them.
Sure, yeah.
It's, it still like makes me lose sleep. And that is the 100% the only reason why I don't start more stores.
Yeah,
it's just because...
I hear you, yeah. Because you never know when something's going to come up. And even if 99% of the orders are totally smooth, it just takes that one order that can be a huge, time sink or a huge problem where it just happens to, like you said, no fault of your own.
Yep.
The shipment is lost by UPS or whatever it is, and then that can sort of bring you down,
Yeah, and I think what I forget is at any job in the world, you have these things that come up. And it might not be a lost package. Like in your case, like with the autistic kid, the stress is probably a lot higher than where's this package? I gotta call. I can't believe I gotta email UPS.
Well, I just feel I remember for the first month or so that we got here, I didn't, I wasn't really working at all because I have another thing that I'm doing right now to make money, which is proofreading for court reporters. So they, the person that sits in court and types up everything, they send it to me and I just proofread it and then I can send it back to them. But I was still kind of finishing that online class. So the first month that we got here, I was like, I'm sleeping 9.5 hours a night. Nothing wakes me. I'm feeling so great. And, as soon as I start just getting, I'll think about it's probably a personal problem, but that's when I start thinking about things when I'm trying to fall asleep, little things on my mind. And so it's any job you have, you're going to think about that sometimes. And I was like, wow, that was so nice when I had literally nothing to think about. I was just sleeping forever.
Right.
But any job is going to, there's going to be stuff that can be on your mind.
One more thought I just wanted to say in terms of talking to customers is, it's definitely not all bad either. That one thing I actually like about talking to my customers sometimes is that you can, number one, just meet some nice, interesting people, but I can also learn some things about my products, or what are they buying it for, how are they using it, or a lot of times my customers know more about archery or whatever it is they're specifically doing than I do, and I can just start asking them questions and I can learn a lot of times I've learned things just from talking to them, and so that kind of thing I think is beneficial. And when you talk to a customer and they sort of then get to have a relationship with you and they think, oh, well, George, he's a really nice guy. I talked to him. I'll go back and order from him next time instead of going to some other guy. So
yeah, 100% I agree with that. Especially in the beginning, the first 6 months, I would encourage everyone to answer their own calls.
Right.
Just because I know for me, I learned so much about my niche. I learned so much about customer service, and I found out all the different problems that people are having. And I think the reason why my stores are so hands-off now is every time there's a problem, instead of just ignoring it, I would fix it.
Exactly.
I would either add it to the FAQ, I would make it more clear on the website, I would make the process easier.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget because it's been 2.5 years now. In the beginning, that first 6 months or probably even first year, I was doing a lot of that, and I was constantly tweaking, and I loved talking to people on the phone, especially because I knew that 99% of those became sales.
Exactly, right. That's true as well. Yeah, once you get on the phone, you know that you can help them answer their questions and help them, place an order. So
yeah, because I figure someone's going to call in. They're not calling in just to say hi to Johnny.
Yeah, exactly, right.
They're calling because they want to buy something. And I actually feel bad, to be honest, because I know my stores could do so much better. I actually have a long, massive to-do list of things that I want to change on it. Yeah. It's just that it hasn't been my priority. And I figured, I was like, sales are pretty steady. And I was like, it still pays the bills. I'm still pretty happy with it. Just let it sit, know. But,
I think that's pretty common. I have a huge long to-do list as well, which is never-ending, and I hear you there.
But what you said earlier, you said that the company that you worked for was a bigger e-commerce store?
Yeah, certainly bigger than I am. Yeah. Okay.
And were they do they sell a niche item, or do they sell kind of everything?
No, they were more of a broad-based type thing as well. Yeah. So they were kind of all over the map, and
so a Wayfair or Hay Needle.
Yes, exactly, stuff like that.
Are you allowed to say who they are?
No,
probably
I don't think
okay.
so.
That's all right. But so if you guys aren't familiar with Hay Needle and Wayfair, they're kind of I guess I don't know. I mean, like, what is actually the story behind those kind of big companies that dropship everything now?
I don't know too much about those. I know that it seems like they have. I don't know if they have lots of little domains where they sell specific niches on different domains. Or
I think they used. Yeah, I think they used to. They almost. I'm almost 100% sure that there was just some guy that had one niche store that was like, oh, this is working well.
I think so too.
And created another one, and then another one, and another one.
Yeah, and
hired employees, scaled it up.
Totally. Yeah, I've seen them selling. I think Wayfair at least on Amazon as well.
Yeah.
So they're everywhere. Yeah.
And eventually they were like, oh well, now that we have 20 or 30 niche stores, let's build a brand.
Right.
Let's put it all under. Yeah, I've seen it because I've seen like specific stores, and then it'll say like a Hey Needle store.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
And so I think those are probably still in existence. And then now they're like, okay, well, if we're gonna get that customer anyways, we might as well get them to buy other stuff.
Right.
So kind of just like Amazon, where they may not make a lot of money off of each item, but they know that you're a customer for life. Right.
And it's just the volume they have from so many stores, so many items, probably millions of items, and then they're growing a business. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting kind of hearing from your story where you've done kind of all of those. You've done everything.
A little bit of everything. Yeah. But I'm still evolving. I feel like I'm always trying to learn new things, and if something's not working, I'll just kind of drop it and try something else. And I know that there's even getting back to Amazon, I've thought about, you mentioned sourcing from China, like a private label type of thing. So that's, I think, been on my mind a lot lately, that I'd love to try that. I'm hearing so many success stories of people doing really well with coming up with their own product, having it made, send it into FBA, and then really killing it there, so that you can make better margins and own the product and not have to worry about all the competition. So,
well, with your niche, I would definitely look into that because you have all the data, you know what sells, you know what people are buying already.
Right.
So I think it'd be a very easy, logical next step.
Yeah.
If somebody had no idea, and they were just getting into it, and they're like, hey, I want to import $10,000 worth of.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty risky. Yeah, I think whatever you pick, you want to probably start small, or not 10,000, this is something smaller, just to kind of make sure it works. But
I've heard that that's actually a major issue is if people start too small. Let's say they order like 100 units or 200 units, it kind of just it destroys their seller rating. Just because they ran out of stock, and then it takes them 4 months to get it back.
That's true, yeah.
And then other people saw that it's doing well, and they get it first.
Yeah, that can be a problem too. It's kind of a fine line, because you don't want to have too much inventory and get stuck with it. And if you have a great product, obviously you never want to run out if you can avoid it. But.
Yeah, and also I think with Amazon, for most people, they give away like 100 products.
Yeah, that seems to be common as well. I don't know. I'm not sure I buy into that. I don't know if that's really necessary, but I think people go a little overboard trying to get reviews right off the bat. Whereas if you just have a good product and you start getting some organic sales, then if the product is good, you should get good reviews for it, and it might take a little more time to grow, but at least you're not just losing tons of money.
Yeah, I think people just are on a rush to get to the first page, because that's when they know they're going to make a lot of money.
Right.
I would definitely say you need to have some reviews first.
True.
And whether you send it to your friends or your family, you need to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, that's true.
But because I know, like, when I shop, I'll look, and if a product has 0 reviews, I just won't buy it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and especially if it's like a brand you never heard of, that's just like, Johnny's brand. It's
Johnny's cowboy hats. So where are you two going to travel next? How long are you staying in Chiang Mai for?
We are leaving here early August. We're going to go down to Bangkok for a week, because we haven't been there, and we feel like if we're in Thailand, we should probably at least see it, even though it doesn't quite appeal to us like Chiang Mai did and like some of the islands do. And then we're going to Bali, which has been my dream destination for years and years. And when I picture Southeast Asia, I picture beaches and ocean, and I moved to San Diego because I love the beach, so I'm feeling a little landlocked here. But yeah, so we're gonna go to Bali next and spend a month or 6 weeks or so there, and I think come back to Thailand and check out the islands a little bit. Then we plan to travel through the whole area. Maybe not live in for as long in like Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos, but definitely travel through, see them, maybe spend some time in the Philippines.
The world tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to...
and Australia and New Zealand. We're going to get there for their summer. So
wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of the rough plan. Stick around Southeast Asia the rest of this year, and then Australia, New Zealand, probably early next year, maybe some Europe next spring, summer. We were really kind of playing it by ear, So far it's got a one-way ticket to Chiang Mai, and now we have a one-way ticket to Bali, and then we'll figure it out as we go. So,
and you had mentioned that you're going to come back in October.
Yes, we're going to Anton's retreat in early October. I forget the dates exactly, but yeah, that should be a lot of fun. I remember hearing about it happening last year. I think it was last October, maybe in Chiang Mai, and at the time I was sort of thinking, oh, I wish I was there. Maybe I can just cruise over there for a week, and of course I never did it. But now this year, when I heard about it happening this year, and I'm already living in this part of the world, I figured gotta check it out. So
tell me about last year when you heard about it. Where were you last October?
In San Diego, just kind of doing my thing, getting ready. Usually October is kind of like crunch time, trying to do all the stuff. I'm trying to get ready for Christmas rush. Holidays is like kind of crazy for me usually, or for a lot of online retailers where the sales really spike. So just living in San Diego, working, and I had heard about the retreat and thought, well, yeah, I'm sure it'd be fun, but yeah, I just didn't make it happen. So.
Would be nice, but life is in the way.
Yeah, exactly. And at that time, we had also already been deep in talking about leaving San Diego and eventually moving to Chiang Mai. Anyway, we were thinking sometime in the spring. We ended up leaving San Diego in May, and so I kind of knew we were going to be there eventually anyway. So.
Well, this year the retreat's going to be in the islands, so I think it'll be even more fun.
Yeah, no, it sounds awesome. I've seen some of the pictures there. I haven't been to that part of Thailand. Neither one of us has, but it looks amazing. Just the sunsets and all that stuff.
So aside from the island itself and the sunsets, like the actual retreat, what made you sign up for? What are you looking forward to?
Again, I think just like signing up for the course, I'm really it's kind of a combo of things. One is just trying to find a couple little nuggets, like out of those few days, if I find one thing like that I can do differently that's going to give me an extra few $100s in sales per month, that's fantastic. And then, meeting some other like-minded people and just kind of trying to do some networking and should be fun.
And Jackie? Are you just there to tag along, or
yes.
are you?
Yeah. She's just kind
they
of
said there were
along
some
for the
social
ride.
events in the evening, so yeah, and I'll be sitting on the beach, hopefully proofreading, because I can do that anywhere.
Yeah, there should be a lot of fun stuff going on in the afternoons and the evenings, I guess. So.
I think it's going to be really exciting, and you're going to meet a ton of cool people. So Jackie, back to the proofreading. How did you get into that?
Well, basically, we had been talking about this trip for like a year, and I was really trying to figure out what I would be able to do to make money. Was not so into the drop shipping idea. I was asking him a lot more about it, and just kind of didn't think it was right for me, and especially because I didn't know how much money it could make right away, and I wanted to keep my job right up until we left, so because I knew I would have income coming in for as long as possible, so I didn't think I would have the time to devote to it, and then I didn't think it would make money that quickly. So basically all my friends knew I was trying to come up with stuff. I was looking online for just other things you can do remotely. And a friend in San Diego has entrepreneur. She goes to different, I don't know what she does. She goes to different conferences and stuff, meets other people.
She's an entrepreneur, Katie. Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, and so she met somebody at one of her conferences some guy who said his wife was starting this class. I think it just launched in February, just teaching people exactly how to proofread transcripts for court reporters. And that you can do it anywhere. And so I was just kind of looking into it, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I've always kind of been someone that has an eye for that. Friends would just have me like, proofread a paper to turn in for class or whatever, and I just felt like it was something I could do. So I signed up for the course. It was entirely online. I started trying. You could probably do it in a couple of months, but things got kind of crazy for me when I was working and we were trying to plan this trip and all. So I took like a month or two off and then just kind of picked it up again around April or May. And yeah, I completed it a few weeks after we got here, and then I've found clients already. So I've already, made money on this.
Nice. How much was that course you took?
It has gone up a lot.
Okay.
When I signed up like right when it started, and she had one of those promotional deals, and she's added a ton of content. It's actually like exploded. I think she marketed it really, really well.
Nice.
And it is exploded, and she's added probably like 3 times the content that it even had when I started. So she charges, I think it's around $900 now.
Okay.
But I paid under $300 way back in February. So
that's what happens when a course is good.
Right.
And
it's good and it works.
And it works, yeah.
Yeah, and then otherwise, I mean, it's like a $10 app for the iPad that you do it on, and I didn't have an iPad, and so my parents got me one for my birthday.
That's nice.
And that's all you need, really.
Happy birthday.
It was a while ago, but thank you.
What's the course called?
The website is proofreadanywhere.com, and I think the course officially is Transcript Proofreading Theory and Practice.
That's long, okay. I'll have a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool because I haven't met anybody in Chiang Mai that does that. We meet so many people that work remotely, and and I didn't think that dropshipping was right for me. It is pretty cool that I found something that I think is right for me, and there's just a lot of stuff you can do if you look into it that you can do from anywhere. So
yeah, like I 100% think that everyone has different personalities that would fit different things. Like I would be terrible at proofreading. Like I wrote 2 books and I didn't proofread either of them. I just don't like doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I don't mind doing like the dropshipping stuff. Like to me, I was like, oh wow, like that sounds exactly what I want to do.
Right.
So I do believe that there is something out there for everyone.
Right.
And what I love about doing the show is I get to pick people's brains and just kind of find out like what else is there, because I've thought I've heard it all.
Right. Yeah.
And this is something completely new.
Yeah. It seems like there's so much stuff. A lot of stuff I was seeing, if you were a teacher or if you just had like a knowledge of something, it's more easy if it's like a school or college subject. You can just like have a class online. But yeah. So much stuff.
With this course that you took, was it a requirement for you to get the job, or did it just help give you the tools and training you needed to get the job?
It's not a requirement. I think she said somewhere that it's like the first course of its kind that does this. And I have no legal background. I wasn't an English major, like nothing like that. And so basically it gave me everything I needed because I knew nothing. I didn't even know this was a career, really. And it was just... Yeah, it just teaches you, some specific grammar rules and then some specific things to court reporting, because it's much different than like editing a book, because you can't, everything on the page is like word for word what was said, and you can't change that. So it's a lot different, but yeah, she tells you everything in the course, how to find clients and.
Was it pretty easy to find clients? Like, how did you go about that?
I emailed them because that was basically I was a little limited. I think if you could start in the U.S. getting your clients, then you could travel and have your clients, and it would probably be a little bit easier. I basically just emailed them. I found a list online. You just there's various ways, she says in the course, to find email addresses. And I just emailed them saying I was a court reporter and I was wondering if they were looking for one. And I got some responses. So
that's it, easy.
Yeah, there's other things you can do. You can call. I did one of them. I emailed, and she wanted to talk to me, so I just told her. I told her I'm in Thailand. I'll call you from Skype, and she was like, "All right, cool." So, and now she sent me work. So, there's other things you can go into agencies. Some people like shadow court reporters. Some people cold call, which a lot of that stuff wasn't as much of an option for me. But yeah, I've already found some.
And just out of curiosity, how well do they pay?
It's paid. You're paid per page. Okay. So it, if you're thinking about hourly or salary, it obviously depends how much you do. I think like 35 to 40 cents per page. And then it's like that font that, it's not that hard to read. It's like, and then, for like rush jobs that they're needed within 24 or 48 hours, you can charge more. For certain ones, you can charge a little bit more. But
so is it one of those things where you can like live comfortably just doing this full time, or is it like a part time thing?
I think you can. I'm definitely not there because I am going really slowly right now. I want to make sure I turn in quality work, so they want to use me and refer me, and I'm spending way more time than I probably need to be. But I mean, my idea is, practice makes perfect. I'll get better. I'm going to get faster. And yeah, I mean, the woman who started the course was doing it full time. I have like a few reporters now. I think she said she had 20 to 30 when she was just doing that full time, and she was making tons of money. I think she says on the website how much she made, and now I'm sure she's doing even better with this course. But I think they say it's something stay-at-home moms can do, and I think ideally people want to do it full time rather than supplement. They want to get out of the 9 to 5.
You know what's funny is like if I didn't know you, if I didn't meet you in person, and I just like saw this website somewhere, and I know this isn't your website or anything, but if I just saw like, let's just say like I just saw this website somewhere, I'd be like, this sounds like a scam.
I know. I think, partly because my friend had actually met her husband, and so there was like I don't know, not that close of a connection, but like, and I did research it a lot, but there wasn't like testimonials really at that point, because I think I signed up like maybe before it even launched. But I don't know. And I remember asking him, like, look at this website. Do you think it's a scam? And I was like, really unsure. But I think because it really wasn't that much that I spent at the time. And
yeah, it seemed like to me it was worth a shot. And I think because we did have our friend Katie recommend it, that it seemed like, okay, I think this is legit. And exactly, if it was just something found out of the blue, maybe it would have been a little more leery, but it seemed pretty legit to me, and it seemed like
she's doing something right, because it's exploded in the last few months. So
you know what you should do, since you're a member of the course and obviously it's worked for you, 100% you should email her and just say, hey, can I become an affiliate for your course?
That's exactly what I told her as well. I said, if you're going to be out there talking about it or telling people about it, you should be getting commissions, because
why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, you took the risk of signing up before there was all these testimonials out there, all this information out there, and you went through the process, and then you kind of proved it, and you're kind of one of the reasons why she's able to charge more money for it now, as well as why like it's easier for other people to get into it, because like now after someone has heard you talk about it, they're going to be a lot more confident to sign up for this course than if they had just stumbled on it. They just saw an ad or something for it.
Yeah.
I
mean,
yeah, so true. She should be thrilled to pay a commission if she can get any more signups. It's great.
I mean, I guess part of me feels the market could get saturated, like how many court reporters are there out there, but I mean, that hasn't been an issue for me.
Yeah,
I think if you're good, I mean, that's the thing. That's why I'm spending so much extra time on my first ones, because if you're good, they're going to want to use you.
Yeah, there's a lot out there, and if you're doing it part-time, you only need a couple, really, and you're good.
And, I mean, here's the thing is, like, I actually went through this in crossroads when I first decided, like, should I talk about Anton's course or not? Because I'm like, this is working.
Right.
And I was like, I can get, I can make a couple $100 every time I refer someone to Anton's course, which is nice, but I'm also creating all these new dropshippers.
There's more competition.
That's more competition, and it was a hard decision. But I was like, you know what? And when it comes down to it, I wish somebody would have told me about this when I started, and it's paid off. I mean, it's paid off like 100,000-fold now, because not only are my stores still doing fine, it's forced me to learn so much more about it, and because I'm always talking about it, I'm learning. I'm picking people's brains. I'm meeting more people. They're helping me. I'm like helping them with, and I'm helping them with their sites. I learn from that as well. And then now I have all these other streams of income. Not only do I have the affiliate income, but then I have more stores, and then now I even have my own affiliate training course. So you never know what's going to lead you to.
Well, I guess I'm not like concerned personally for myself. Like, if I tell some people about it, then I won't be able to get work anymore. But there's just so many people in the course and so many going through it all the time. I'm like, is there going to be a time when, if I tell someone about it in a year, then they're not going to be able to find work as easily? But I don't know. I'm sure they will. If they're good, they will.
Right. I'm with you, Johnny. I'm all for, spreading the wealth and sharing information. And I think there's there's room out there for all of us to make money and create business, and especially you're talking about selling stuff online. Just the e-commerce or online retail market is just growing every year like crazy, and just every single year more and more people are going to be buying stuff online, and it's just going to continue to grow like crazy. So
yeah, I definitely agree. What this conversation reminded me of is, those vocational schools where for a while like dental assistants will get really popular.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they'll promote that a lot and say like everyone should sign up and take this 2-year dental assistance course.
Right.
And by the time all those people, come out to the market, there's a lot less jobs.
Yeah.
And
it's a little cyclical, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then they might do it with mechanics, or then they might do it with like nurses or whatever it is. But at the same time, I think what it is like, I really believe that those like people, if they're waiting for everyone else to be good at it already, they're gonna say, okay, this 100% now works because now I've met 20 people who are doing well with it. It's they've been sitting on their butt. They probably heard about it 6 months ago or 2 years ago, and they should have jumped on it.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's like someone investing in stocks after 100 other people have said how great it is.
Yeah, it's less effective than.
Yeah. And that's what I like about our community is, and us as kind of these bootstrapping entrepreneurs, where we can try new stuff. Because I mean, if it wasn't for you moving out here and quitting your job, you probably never would have started this court reporting thing.
Probably not. Yeah.
Even if you heard about it, you might be like, that sounds like it could work.
Right.
But you'd probably put it off, right?
Yeah, and my job is exhausting, so I didn't want to come home and take this course, when I was working full time. So I probably wouldn't have, me personally. But I mean, I know a lot of people are doing it with a full time job. But
right. Well, thank you both for being on the show. That was this conversation. The keywords for this are going to be all over the place.
Yeah, covered a lot of ground. Yeah, thank you, Johnny. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I like it. So if they want to keep in touch, they want to look at your blogs, your websites, where can they go? So
my site is georgesports.com.
And my blog is yourautismwhisperer.com.
All right. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.